come in and sit down. Got it. Okay. As you are welcome here. Visitor, friend, or longtime member, you are welcome here. With little children or your partner or alone, we joyfully welcome you here. You are welcome here as believer or doubter, as joiner or loner. You are welcome here. Feeling a part of us or not, full of energy or not, seeking a vision or a rest, you are welcome to join us as you are.
We acknowledge that we are in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish, Nez Perce, Blackfoot, and Anishinaabe people who shared the Helena Valley as hunting grounds. The indigenous story of the Helena Valley began long before the arrival of Europeans. We honor those who walked here before us. We honor the path they have shown us in caring for this place for generations to come. We strive for justice and fair relations with their descendants. And Nikki will help with the chalice lighting. And if you'll look in your order of service, we'll say together, we gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. We'll start off by singing Spirit of Life, hymn 123, in the Singing the Living Tradition.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
If you'll turn to 441 and Singing the Living Tradition, we'll go do the first reading, which I think is a responsive reading. If you'll read the italics.
Yeah.
To worship is to stand in awe under a heaven of stars, before a flower, a leaf in sunlight, or a grain of sand.
To worship is to be silent, receptive, before a tree astir with the wind, or the passing shadow of a cloud.
To worship is to work with dedication and with skill. It is to pause from work and listen to a strain of music.
To worship is to sing with the singing beauty of the earth. It is to listen through a storm to the still and small voice within.
Worship is a loneliness seeking communion. It is a thirsty land crying out for rain.
Worship is kindred fire within our hearts. It moves through deeds of kindness and through acts of love.
Worship is the mystery within us, reaching out to the mystery beyond.
It is an inarticulate silence, yearning to speak. It is the window of the moment, open to the sky of the eternal.
Usually when we have a small group ministry, we don't do a formal kids story. But I kind of can't resist. I wonder if you two could come up, because I have a question for you. Oh, Mara's not coming. Hey, you might like this, Mara. It's kind of an interesting question. So I'm wondering, you two, if either of you knows what it means to worship. Not really. What about you, Mara? What about pray? Do you know about, have you ever said a prayer or asked some mysterious being for help or guidance? No? Well, as people get older, and maybe as they get more aware of how big the world is and how scary it is, often they look for guidance outside of themselves and even their circle of family and friends. And the whole God thing has to do with that. And as you may know, God has many names: higher power, mysterious being, the one, whatever. But whenever you hear that word God, you can maybe just imagine some mysterious, unknown, moving force behind life. So when people worship, they're often speaking to God and honoring, respecting, and loving the creation that we share. And when you pray, it's another form of talking to God, that maybe someone's sick and you want to help them. It is like a wish, a really powerful wish. And if you are speaking to some great unknown, then maybe if you get some support, things will look a little better. So that's really all I wanted to say, was to plant those ideas about worship and prayer. Any comments? Nope, nope. Well, that's it then. We're going to sing you out. It's time for our offering. I neglected to ask anybody to do it. Do we have a couple of volunteers to pass around the plate? Or even one? No? Linda will help. And thank you for the gifts this day and for all the gifts of action that make this community possible. If you're visiting, please remain our guest. Your presence is your gift to us. you'll turn back to the Singing the Living Tradition, number 443, we will read more or less together. We arrive out of many singular rooms, written by Kenneth Patton. We arrive out of many singular rooms, walking over the branching streets.
We come to be assured that brothers and sisters surround us to restore their images on our eyes.
We enlarge our voices in common speaking and singing.
We try again that solitude found in the midst of those who with us seek their hidden reckonings.
Our eyes reclaim the remembered faces. Their voices stir the surrounding air.
The warmth of their hands assures us that and the gladness of our spoken names.
This is the reason of cities, of homes, of assemblies in the houses of worship.
It is good to be with one another.
Oh, we have another hymn. This is in the Open Your Heart Songbook, Love is Our Spirit, page 53.
Love is our spirit, it's who we are. Serving others is what we do. Love is the spirit that guides us. Serving others is what we do. I will stand beside you, sit beside you, turn and beside you, laugh and cry and dream with you too. For love is our spirit, it's who we are. Serving others is what we do. Love is our spirit, it's who we are. Serving others is what we do. Love is the spirit that guides us. Serving others is what we do. I will stand beside you, sit beside you, join arms and walk beside you, laugh and cry and dream with you too. For love is our spirit, it's who we are. Serving others is what we do.
So this last season or semesters, or I'm not quite sure what to call our 9 months of worship together. Anybody got any ideas? What do we call it? Church? Yeah, academic year. So anyway, once a month, as most of you know, we've had these small group ministries dedicated to learning about the new Shared Values program. And this is the last of this year's series. And so I wanted to not exactly wrap it up, but keep it alive, because I have a suspicion we're going to be revisiting these topics as we go along, since they are so meaty, really, so much opportunity to discuss. So anyway, the UUs have a relatively short history in the realm of established religions. We commingled two faith traditions in 1962. That was just, what, like 63 years ago? It was a bit of a struggle, as there were strong ideas from each tradition which didn't necessarily mesh seamlessly. In my mind, it felt like the rationalist humanist Unitarians were marrying the mysterious spiritual Universalists. What could go wrong? Well, actually, it seems to have worked out pretty well. Well, I'm no religious historian, and in fact have come a little late to the game with only 10 years of membership in this church, and only about half of that as an active member. But here we are, 63 years after our faith traditions joining, and the marriage is holding mostly. In the early days, I didn't pay much attention to the actual details of our church and our details of our faith. I'd heard that we were covenantal but not creedal, and understood that to mean that I didn't have to adhere to a group fantasy about the tenets of my faith. So since I haven't actually studied this religion, or any religion for that matter, I learned through osmosis. And I found out about the Unitarians. It's more than okay to have a diversity of beliefs amongst us. In fact, it's considered a strength. We are not bound by a single creed, which I think leads people to say, oh, you're a Unitarian, you can believe anything, which I always take offense at. Oh, well, that's what you think, We are not bound by a single creed, but it does not mean we don't have beliefs. Christian patriarchal traditions can be set aside. There are other much more compelling reasons to join with other Unitarians, Universalists, such as valuing community, focusing on social justice, having a group of sympathetic friends and fellows that we can sail through this life with more support than if we were single. I really began to learn about our faith with the onset of the pandemic, with the changes we faced, particularly not being able to meet in person. When that practice of staying home began, I had to abandon my career as a ceramics artist working at the Archie Bray, as our student education building and all the programs were shut down. So me being an active doer kind of person, I was looking around for something else to do, and I thought, aha, my other community, the Unitarians. So I decided to get more involved. And I looked for a way to be of service to our church. And through volunteering for leadership positions, I now have a lot more knowledge about what we really do believe in, what it says in our bylaws, what it says in not just our bylaws, but the Unitarian UUA bylaws, which is where the 7 principles used to live. So this brings me to today's topic, the heart of UU beliefs, the shared value statements. So here's a little history. You'll find the text for our beliefs and practices inside those UUA bylaws, known as Section 2. You can find all this stuff online, of course, uua.org. When I joined this church, those practices were called the 7 principles, with the 6 sources underlying the principles. I took those principles to be similar in a way to the 10 Commandments. It felt to me like we were being instructed about what our ethical behaviors should be and how we might treat and regard each other in our wider community. But the UUA, the nationwide UUA, was bound by the rule that every 15 years we have to review the documents and update them. And so the 7 principles came into view as time for updates. And I think what the motivating factor was about changing them, which I'll point out, the 7 principles haven't been around forever. They really are not cast in bronze. But in my short connection to the UU Church, they might as well have been cast in bronze because they're really good. And I have referred to them many times in my life when I needed guidance, when my behaviors were off beam, when I needed help, basically with compassion and love. So it really was a shock to learn, I think it was in 23, To learn that the UUA wanted to revisit and rewrite those 7 principles, especially when they presented a first draft of those revisions in the winter of '23. In our coffee group, Katie Knight brought copies of the text to us, and we read the proposals, and were not exactly enraptured. It was a 2-page, single-spaced, typewritten document, so wordy it was hard to comprehend, especially when compared to the succinct 7 principles. It felt to me like the committee that was appointed to rewrite that section of the bylaws were highly educated university professors with multiple PhDs, and they wanted to cross every T and dot every I. And so the language was very wordy, and so much of it that it kind of glossed over the essential truths. So I think it was appropriate to be upset about that. Anyway, because we had been charged with needing to review those documents, part of the reason for that was to demonstrate that, yes, we are a living tradition, meaning that we are alive and responsive and are able to change with the times. So then over the next 2 years, we went through a journey of conferring, debating, rewording, and refining, until finally, in June 2024, 80% of the attendees at the UAA General Assembly voted to approve the new document. 80%. When I heard that, I thought, whoa, this document must have been really improved. Because I think if they'd had us vote on the first one, it would have been 20% approval. So I still found the whole thing quite mysterious. In fact, I didn't even know what the name of the new so-called principles were, and it took me quite a bit of searching around online to find out that, in fact, it wasn't until the fall that they're called shared principles. Oh, that was illuminating. But along with writing the new shared principles, we were told that the new shared values, that the 7 principles were kind of going to be put on the back burner, and we were assured that we could continue to use them if we wanted to, but they were being replaced by the shared values. Well, that was pretty alarming, really, at least to me. So I think the idea that the 7 principles were, shall we say, static. You're told to how to behave and what to do, but it wasn't exactly a conversational gambit. And what the UUA wanted to do was to open up conversation and communication and connection with us in our fellowships. And so what they chose, the new shared values, basically one word for each value, and then fortunately they added a sentence that helps pad out each one. But the main thing was that they put love at the center. Now, I didn't see love in the 7 principles. Maybe I missed it, but I've never seen that concept in there. So I thought that was kind of a big deal. And one of the things that I discovered is that the motivation for bringing love into the picture with our new guiding shared values came from the Universalists. Now, I don't know if many of you have actually looked into the differing characteristics of the Unitarians versus the Universalists, but the Unitarians tended to be academic, brainy, a little more, what can I say, straight-laced maybe, although that's not really true anyway. But as opposed to the Universalists, which really were kind of ooey-gooey space cadets. focusing on the mysteries of life, of the unknown things that we all, I mean, I get goosebumps just thinking about it, of what may happen in this world, what may be reality, but you can't nail it down. And so having these two traditions come together, I think, for instance, when I refer to what church I belong to, I almost always say, oh, I'm a Unitarian. But after I read about the Universalists, I thought, you know, I'm a Universalist. So I tend that way, and I was very pleased to read some commentary about the new shared values having love at the center. And I'm going to read this thing. Drawing from the Universalist heritage, love is the purest expression of that which is holy. For our forebears, love was the most essential aspect of God, however you want to use your name for God. And love was never reserved for just a few, but was extended to everyone. Our shared values work very differently than a creed or statement of belief. You don't take a test to belong to our fellowship. No proof is required. No big statement about what you do or do not believe. Our faith community is held together by a covenant. That means promises we make to each other in our community, and the shared values underlie those promises. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. And the values we share include all the following, which we hold as inseparable and deeply interconnected. So here's the list. Interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence and acknowledge our place in it. Pluralism. We are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. Justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all feel welcome and can thrive. Transformation. We adapt to the changing world. Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. And the last value, equity. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. And of course, as I have said, love is what unites us. So one thing I was curious about, because many people I know had such resistance to the new shared values. So I spent some time comparing it to the 7 principles. And it turns out pretty much everything in the 7 principles is still here. It's reworded, the relationships are a little bit different, but there's a little bit more. And the little bit more is generosity and love. And so I found now that I have embraced these 7 shared values. No, I've embraced these new words, and I think that since it's the main guidance that we receive from our fellowship, particularly since we don't have the 10 Commandments, and we don't now we do not prioritize the 7 principles, although they're still there. That being non-creedal, well, actually, I'm going to dispute that a little bit. We're generally non-creedal in that we don't have a set of beliefs that are demanded of us, but we do have these shared values. And that might not be a creed, but it's certainly a guiding light. So I wanted to read one last poem here about this, and then maybe we can get in our smaller groups and discuss it. This is written by the same person, I think, who wrote the commentary about our shared values that I just quoted. And also, it happens to be on the front page of the OOS today, if you want to have a copy to take home. Accepting one another is the truest form of faithful living. The search for truth, our constant star. We pledge our hearts, minds, and hands to challenge injustice with courage, to find hope in times of fear, and to live out our Unitarian Universalist values every day as a beloved community. Thus do we covenant with each other and all that is sacred in life. So in your OOS, I don't have it right here, but pardon? Order of service. Yes. Yeah. I listed some questions about, oh, thank you. Some questions for discussion, since we're focusing on the shared values this week. And, you know, I had a struggle figuring out what to say, and so I wrote these questions mainly as conversation starters, but I don't think it matters much whether you actually sit down and go through them and answer them one by one. You might pick one, and the conversation might get going and not stop. So I would urge you to have at it. So let's see, how many people do we have? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So should we have 2 or 3 groups? 3? Okay. So let's number off. We'll have 3 groups. And Nikki, could you start?
1, 2, 3.
Joe?
2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1,
2.
3.
Okay, and we can gather around. That back corner is a good one. This one often works. Sometimes this one works.
Yeah, tell us where to go. 1, 2, 3. There you go.
Ah, Nikki, she solves problems.
Yeah. We don't have to make it hard.
And we have a lot of time this morning. I'm thinking we have about at least 20 minutes to visit, so you don't have to rush.
There is no more democratic process.
tradition, 157. Oh boy. Oh. I don't know how many of you were at the rally yesterday, but Judy was, and she led the music, and this was one of the songs that she led, which is an old-time familiar, and I find it really inspiring. So here we go, step by step.
I'll play it in group ones.
That would be good. Thank
All
you,
right.
Cheryl. Step by step, the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And by union, what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill. Singly none, singly none.
So Nikki, we'll say together while you're doing that. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. So now is the time for announcements. We're still being recorded, and so if you have information that's not in the order of service or something you'd like to add, now's your chance. Not one? Not one. Okay. One thing I want to say is, could you just give a few sentences about what your group said about the shared values? Like, I'm wanting to kind of take the temperature of our fellowship, of the range of worthless to fabulous.
So we were the group over here, so I'll stand where we are, and maybe that can help remember what the focus was. Well, no one seemed to really like change, but we liked these. And one of the things we liked was the term change from principles to values, shared values. We felt like they did update with current terminology that we use. There were active words such as thriving and flourishing. What else? We would like to incorporate these into our lives more, and we thought getting the graphic at the end that you all did at camp, I wasn't there, but that would help us incorporate these values. A lot of people thought they're they're in addition to our 7 principles. Group, help me, anything else? Okay.
Marianne, would you report on group 2? Who will report on group 2? Agnes? She's looking away. Cynthia? I don't want to ask you. You're up in the
Okay, so for group 2, we talked a lot about the difference between the shared values and the 7 principles. We had the bookmark of the 7 principles, and we kind of compared the two. For some of us in the group, it was not common knowledge that we went to shared values. And then we talked about how some of us weren't sure how we were going to incorporate it because it was still so new, and we're still mourning the 7 principles and moving away from it. And we also kind of talked about a little bit of the word democracy is in the 7 principles, and it wasn't put into the shared values, and the democratic process was not put in there, so that was kind of interesting. And then, of course, we went to politics because we do that. And then trying to learn how to incorporate this in our lives will take a little bit. And we talked about having a service a month, maybe talking about a service about the principles, about the values, so then we can talk about each one of them individually more. And so that's kind of a little recap.
Yeah, so in group 3, we had a pretty robust conversation and we never got past the first question. And I think there's a lot of emotions about the 7 principles not being in the bylaws, but also recognizing the bylaws are a governmental document that goes to the IRS and not necessarily has to be our religious text. And that we as a fellowship can choose to incorporate the 7 principles into our own covenant, even though we just concluded that process, but that is something that we can carry forward here as a fellowship. We noted on a number of the things that we're missing in addition to the democratic process, but like the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, I'm not really seeing in the values. How I synthesized it at the very end, and my big takeaway when we were kind of looking through it is we didn't see the action words necessarily in the values that we see the call to action in the principles. One of the things that I noted very first that I also saw missing in the values was the affirmation, the very opening statement that we affirm and promote, which I feel like is the basis for our covenantal religion, that we are affirming and agreeing to act in this manner as a fellowship and as a faith. And it felt almost like the values were kind of generated by a bunch of guys in robes and ladies in robes, pastoral led fellowships and not necessarily lay-led fellowships. And so there's just a whole lot of things, but how we kind of came about at the end, Cheryl had mentioned at one point about the action words that are present, like we're affirming to do these things in the principles. And Cliff also mentioned about the values from his time in the military when folks go to basic, like they're coming from all walks of life and they have to find some basis to bind themselves together. And so the one thing I would share and leave with everybody, how can we bring these two things together in our own practices, is view the values as who we are and the principles as how we are. Who we are the values, the principles are how we show up and how we go about and how we live the values in our daily life.
Thanks, Joe. That's really helpful. Thus is the end of the recording.